Get ready, coin collectors and treasures hunter. Today, we're diving deep into the top 3 most jaw-dropping U.S. coins ever struck: the 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar, the legendary 2000 P. Sacagawea dollar, and the ultra-rare 1975 Roosevelt dime. These coins might look ordinary at first glance, but their shocking errors, mysterious origins, and sky-high auction prices. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks ordinary spare change anymore. That's a small fortune hidden in plain sight. And tonight, we're going to explore the unbelievable history, the jaw-dropping mistakes, and the record-breaking values of the 1979 D-era Susan B. Anthony dollar. So stay with me until the very end, because once you hear the details about how and why these coins can be worth so much, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The Susan B. Anthony dollar itself has a fascinating history. When it was first introduced in 1979, it marked the first time in United States history that a real woman, not a symbolic figure like Liberty, appeared on circulating coinage. Susan B. Anthony, a famous suffragist who fought for women's right to vote, was chosen as the face of this brand new dollar. But even though the idea was groundbreaking, the coin itself quickly ran into problems. Its size and color made it look almost identical to a quarter, which led to confusion everywhere from cash registers to vending machines. People didn't like using them, businesses didn't like accepting them, and very soon the Anthony dollar became one of the least popular coins ever released by the U.S. Mint. But here's the thing about unpopular coins. They sometimes end up becoming hidden treasures, especially when minting mistakes or errors sneak through the cracks. And that's exactly what happened with the 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar. Struck at the Denver Mint, this coin should have been just another regular release, with millions of examples churned out for circulation. But when you're making coins at such massive scale, mistakes happen. And in rare cases, those mistakes create coins so valuable that collectors will fight tooth and nail to own one. One of the most famous categories of these 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollars are the dramatic mint errors. Some were struck off-center, where the design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. Others were struck multiple times, creating doubled or even tripled images. Still others were struck on the wrong metal planchets, meaning they were accidentally minted on coin blanks intended for quarters, nickels, or even foreign coins. And it's these types of mistakes that elevate an ordinary dollar into the realm of five-figure treasures. Picture this, a collector in possession of a 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar struck on a copper nickel-clad planchet that was undersized. Instead of fitting the mold perfectly, the coin came out misaligned, showing part of the design cut off. Something that might look like trash to an untrained eye suddenly becomes worth thousands at auction. One example of this type of error has been known to sell for over $6,000. And that's just the beginning. Then you have the double die varieties, where the inscriptions or even Susan B. Anthony's portrait itself shows signs of doubling. On certain 1979 D coins, the lettering around the rim such as Liberty or the date can appear thickened or shadowed, a telltale sign of doubling during the strike. Collectors love these, and they're willing to pay massive premiums for well-documented examples. Imagine pulling one of these out of an old coin jar and realizing it's worth $10,000. That's the thrill of the hunt. Another category of error that really shakes up the value of the 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollar is when the coin is struck on the wrong planchet entirely. There are known examples of these dollars struck on quarter blanks, which means the coin comes out undersized but with the full dollar design squished onto it. It looks strange, unusual, and utterly collectible. Depending on condition, these can skyrocket well into the $15,000 range. Some have even been discovered struck on foreign coin blanks, used for international contracts handled by the mint, making them even rarer. When one of these comes up for sale, bidding wars are almost guaranteed. Auction records tell us just how much these coins can be worth. Common 1979 D. Susan B. Anthony dollars in circulated condition might only be worth face value, maybe $1 or $2 at most. But once you step into the world of mint errors, the price jumps dramatically. Off-center strikes can fetch hundreds. Dramatic double dies can bring in thousands. And the ultra-rare wrong planchet strikes can hit the $6,000 to $10,000 or even $15,000 range, sometimes even higher if two determined collectors. The 2000p era Sacagawea Dollar is one of the most breathtaking modern U.S. coins you could ever hope to discover. Imagine reaching into a handful of coins, pulling out what looks like an ordinary golden dollar, and realizing that you're holding something so rare and so valuable. That's the kind of story that sends chills down the spine of every collector. If you stay with me until the very end, you'll understand not only how this incredible coin came to exist, but also how you can recognize one if it ever crosses your path. And believe me, once you know the details, you'll never look at your change the same way again. The Sacagawea Dollar itself had an ambitious beginning. First minted in 2000, the coin was created to replace the unpopular Susan B. Anthony dollar. Officials at the U.S. Mint wanted something bold, something that would stand out in circulation, and something that would celebrate an important figure in American history. They chose Sacagawea, the Shoshone woman who guided Lewis and Clark during their famous expedition. Sculptor Glenna Goodacre's design showed Sacagawea carrying her infant son Jean-Baptiste on her back, with her gaze looking confidently toward the future. To make the coin distinct, it was struck in a golden-colored manganese brass alloy, unlike anything else circulating at the time. The mint expected these new dollars to catch on with the public, but much like the Susan B. Anthony dollar before it, usage in everyday transactions never quite took off. One of the most famous examples sold for nearly $20,000 to $30,000 at auction, and others have fetched similar amounts. Even more shocking, when two collectors get into a bidding war over one of these coins, the price can climb toward $35,000 or higher. Think about that for a moment. A coin that originally had a face value of just $1 can now be worth enough to buy a brand new car, pay off debt, or even cover the down payment on a house. That's the kind of story that makes collectors dream of finding their own hidden treasure. So why are these coins so valuable? It comes down to rarity, demand, and the sheer spectacle of the era itself. In numismatics, the most prized items are the ones that simply shouldn't exist. The 2000p era Sacagawea Dollar falls into this exact category. Coins are supposed to be struck with the correct design on the correct planchet. Yet here we have a coin that breaks all the rules. A dollar that looks like a quarter. A dollar with mismatched designs. A dollar that defies logic and stands as proof that even the most carefully managed mint can sometimes produce spectacular mistakes. Collectors love this kind of story, and they're willing to pay top dollar to own a piece of it. But let's dive deeper into some of the specifics. The 2000p Sacagawea Dollar was struck in massive numbers at the Philadelphia Mint, with hundreds of millions released into circulation. Most of them are completely ordinary, worth only face value unless they're in pristine uncirculated condition. But in a tiny handful of cases, the wrong dies were paired or the wrong blanks were fed into the presses. This created the now famous mule error, which pairs the obverse of a Washington quarter with the reverse of the Sacagawea dollar. When collectors first discovered this strange hybrid coin, there was disbelief at first. Could the mint really have made such a huge mistake? But authentication by professionals confirmed the truth. This was no trick, no fantasy piece, but a genuine U.S. Mint error. And once that confirmation came, values skyrocketed. The first discoveries were scooped up quickly, and soon the numismatic world was buzzing. Suddenly everyone was checking their pocket change, looking closely at every golden dollar they came across, hoping to strike it rich. To this day, the 2000p era Sacagawea Dollar remains one of the most hunted modern coins in existence, precisely because it combines the allure of rarity with the possibility of life-changing value. Another incredible factor in its story is how few of these errors are known to exist. Unlike other coins where dozens or even hundreds of errors might slip through, the 2000p era Sacagawea Dollar is thought to exist in only a very limited number. Some estimates put the figure at just a couple dozen genuine examples. That level of scarcity drives collectors wild. When something is that rare, and when its story is so unusual, every single appearance at auction becomes a major event. Prices of $20,000 to $30,000 are not just possible, they are expected. And when bidding gets heated, the ceiling climbs even higher. For anyone searching their change, the message is clear: don't overlook the details. If you come across a 2000-piece Sacagawea dollar, study it carefully. Look at the obverse. Does it show George Washington instead of Sacagawea? Does the coin feel lighter or smaller than it should, as if it were struck on the wrong planchet? These are the clues that could transform an ordinary dollar into a $20,000 payday. The 1975-era Roosevelt dime is one of those coins that instantly grabs attention, not only because of its fascinating history but also because of its jaw-dropping value. Imagine holding a dime, and what makes it even more exciting is that most people would never think twice about a dime. You'll realize that this tiny coin carries an enormous story, one that has stunned collectors for decades. Stay with me until the end, because the details of this coin's history and the values attached to it will keep you on the edge of your seat. The Roosevelt dime series began in 1946, just after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had guided the nation through both the Great Depression and World War II. To honor him, the U.S. Mint replaced the Mercury dime with a new design featuring Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse. For decades, the Roosevelt dime circulated widely, becoming one of the most familiar coins in America. By the 1970s, billions had been struck, and most people paid them little attention. But in 1975, something happened at the Mint that would create one of the rarest and most valuable dimes of all time. This error is so rare that only a handful of authentic examples are known to exist today. Unlike other errors where hundreds or even thousands might be discovered, the 1975 No.S. Roosevelt dime is a true rarity, with perhaps just 2 confirmed specimens in private hands. That kind of scarcity transforms an ordinary 10-cent piece into a treasure worth tens of thousands of dollars. When one comes to auction, it's not just a coin sale, it's an event in the numismatic world. Collectors prize this error for several reasons. First, it's incredibly difficult to find. Decades have passed since 1975, and yet only those few known examples have surfaced. Second, it represents a dramatic minting mistake, one that defies the quality control standards of the Mint. And third, the coin has become a symbol of just how much value can be hidden in the smallest and most ordinary-looking objects. A dime that you could easily mistake for change in your pocket is actually worth as much as a luxury car. Auction records show just how valuable the 1975-era Roosevelt dime can be. In one famous case, a 1975 No.S. Roosevelt dime sold for more than $40,000 at auction. Another example has sold for even higher amounts, climbing into the $45,000 to $50,000 range depending on its condition and the level of collector interest. When 2 determined bidders go head-to-head, the price can climb to staggering levels. That's why this dime is considered one of the great modern rarities of U.S. coinage. What makes this story even more exciting is how easily these coins could be overlooked. To the untrained eye, the difference between a normal 1975 Roosevelt dime and the error version is subtle. The design looks the same. The size, the weight, the metal all appear identical. The key detail is the missing mint mark. On a normal proof dime from 1975, you should see an S mint mark just above the date. On the error coins, that mint mark is completely missing. Such a small detail, but one that makes the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth $50,000. Now, imagine the thrill of discovery. Picture someone in the 1970s purchasing a proof set from the U.S. Mint, not realizing that one of the dimes inside was a legendary error. For years, it could have sat untouched in a drawer, passed down from one generation to the next, until finally someone with a sharp eye noticed the missing mint mark. That moment of realization, that sudden recognition that you're holding one of the rarest coins in modern history, is what makes the 1975-era Roosevelt dime so fascinating. That's the magic of the 1975-era Roosevelt dime. It transforms an ordinary piece of change into an extraordinary treasure. It's the kind of coin that makes collectors dream, that makes history come alive, and that proves beyond a doubt that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hidden in plain sight.